What is the difference between anacondas and pythons? Ever wondered which snake is the true giant of the jungle? Is it the mighty anaconda lurking in South American swamps, or the powerful python slithering through Asian forests? These two snake titans are often confused. Both are enormous, both are masterful ambush hunters, and neither has a drop of venom. But what really sets anacondas and pythons apart? How can you tell who's who in the world of big snakes? Today, we'll dive into the swampy rivers and steamy rainforests to compare anacondas versus pythons. Stick around. By the end of this journey, you'll be able to tell these amazing snakes apart with ease. Appearance and size of the giants. The green anaconda is one hefty snake. Anacondas have thick, muscular bodies that make them the heaviest snakes in the world. The most famous is the green anaconda, an olive green snake with dark oval spots running along its back. Its body can be over 12 inches across. An average adult female might be 15+ feet long, but some anacondas grow much larger. In fact, exceptionally large green anacondas can reach lengths of 26 feet or more. They're not just long, they're incredibly heavy. A giant anaconda can weigh over 550 pounds. That's as heavy as a full-grown lion. All that bulk gives anacondas a stocky, thick appearance, almost like a huge green sausage with spots. Their eyes and nose sit on top of their head, which is a clue to their lifestyle. More on that soon. The reticulated python, on the other hand, is the length champion of snakes. Pythons, like the reticulated python, have more slender bodies and a striking geometric pattern on their scales, as shown above. The term reticulated means net-like, referring to the crisscross diamond-shaped markings of yellow, brown, black, and white along its body. Reticulated pythons regularly reach 20+ feet in length, and some can grow even longer. The longest snake reliably documented was a reticulated python measuring about 32 feet, longer than a giraffe is tall. However, because they are slimmer than anacondas, pythons usually weigh less for the same length. A really big reticulated python might weigh around 220 to 330 pounds in the wild, whereas a similar length anaconda would weigh much more. Anacondas are short but much heavier, while pythons are longer and leaner. If you saw them side by side, the anaconda would look like the heavyweight wrestler, thick and robust, and the python would be the long, agile acrobat. Habitat and range. One big difference between anacondas and pythons is where they live in the world. Anacondas are only found in the New World, mainly South America. Green anacondas slither through the tropical rainforests of the Amazon and Orinoco River basins in countries like Brazil, Venezuela, and Colombia. They also inhabit swamps, marshes, and slow-moving streams, and a few have even been spotted in Trinidad and, surprisingly, as introduced pets in Florida. Anacondas are highly aquatic snakes. They love water and are awkward on land. If you imagine the Amazon's flooded wetlands and swampy areas, that's the anaconda's perfect home. Their eyes and nostrils are on top of their heads so they can hide underwater, with just a bit of their face poking out to breathe and watch for prey. This adaptation is great for ambushing animals that come to the water's edge. Because of their aquatic nature, anacondas have even earned the nickname water boas. And indeed, anacondas are a type of boa. They can hold their breath for about 10 minutes underwater and swim swiftly and stealthily. Pythons, in contrast, are found in the Old World, Africa, Asia, and Australia. The reticulated python specifically is native to Southeast Asia, living in countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Thailand. They roam a variety of habitats from thick rainforests and woodlands to grasslands, and they are quite adaptable. In some areas, reticulated pythons stay in pristine jungle, while in others, like parts of Indonesia and Singapore, they've been found living near villages and even in city sewers. Generally, Pythons prefer warm tropical environments, just like anacondas do, but pythons are more terrestrial, land-dwelling. Many pythons are good climbers. A reticulated python can firmly wrap its coils around a tree trunk and climb up using its muscles. They are also decent swimmers. A snake that long can swim, and pythons do cross rivers, but they're not as specialized for water as anacondas are. You won't catch a python lounging in a swamp all day. They're more likely to be hiding in underbrush or up in the trees waiting for prey, occasionally venturing into human-adjacent areas in search of rats or other food. Behavior and lifestyle. Both anacondas and pythons are largely solitary creatures with similar basic habitats. They spend a lot of time hiding and waiting, and then ambushing prey. However, their behaviors reflect their habitat differences. Anacondas, being swamp dwellers, are most at home in the water. They often lurk with their bodies submerged and only their eyes above the surface, patiently waiting like a crocodile for something to come close. On land, anacondas are quite slow and heavy-moving. They can only slither so fast with that bulky body, perhaps around 5 miles per hour at top speed on land, which is about a slow walking pace. But once they slip into the water, they become sleek and swift. In water, anacondas can reportedly swim at speeds up to 10 miles per hour, faster than most humans can swim. They use the water for buoyancy, which supports their weight and allows them to move more easily. An anaconda might float down a river with just its nostrils out, or coil up among roots and reeds near a riverbank. This aquatic lifestyle also provides safety and a quick escape. If threatened, an anaconda will usually dive underwater and disappear into the depths. Pythons, in contrast, spend more time on solid ground, or in the trees, and tend to be more active at night, nocturnal. The reticulated python often hunts at night, using the cover of darkness to sneak up on prey. During the day, it might rest hidden under leaves or in a burrow. Pythons are excellent at camouflage. Their patterned scales blend with the forest floor and shadows. They can also climb, and often do so to find a good hiding spot or to raid bird nests. Python's movement on land is the classic serpentine slither, and despite their size, they can be quite agile. They're not lightning-fast runners. Snakes generally aren't built for speed over distance, but a python can strike quickly and may travel surprising distances in search of food or mates. On land, a python's top speed is modest. One source estimates around 1 mile per hour, essentially a crawl. But they don't usually need to chase prey. Stealth is their strategy. Both snakes are ambush hunters by nature, meaning they lie in wait and rely on a surprise attack. They have similar sensory tools, excellent smell and heat-sensing abilities. Both anacondas and pythons flick their tongue to collect scent molecules and smell the air using their Jacobson's organ, a special sensory organ in the roof of the mouth. They can also detect the body heat of other animals using pit organs on their face. Reticulated pythons have heat-sensing pits along their upper lip scales, and anacondas, as boas, have heat sensors too, though slightly different in arrangement. These heat sensors allow them to hunt in darkness by detecting warm-blooded prey. Their eyesight is not especially good, but they can see movement. They also feel vibrations. A heavy footstep or the movement of an animal can alert them that dinner is walking by. Hunting and diet. When it comes to catching and eating prey, anacondas and pythons are amazingly alike in method. Both are constrictors. This means they subdue prey by biting and then coiling around it to give them a deadly hug. Neither snake has venom. Instead, they rely on pure muscle power. A snake will strike out lightning fast, grab the prey with its sharp backward curving teeth, and then immediately wrap several coils around the animal. They squeeze tightly, not actually crushing bones, but preventing the prey from breathing. Every time the victim exhales, the coils tighten until the heart stops and the animal suffocates. It's a very effective hunting technique for large snakes. Both anacondas and pythons have extremely flexible jaws and stretchy ligaments in their mouth, allowing them to swallow prey whole. even prey much thicker than their own head. After constricting, they will slowly work their jaws around the animal and gulp it down. They can unhinge their jaw, not literally pop it out of place, but expand it widely to accommodate big meals. There's a breathing tube in their throat that lets them breathe while swallowing. This means these snakes can eat animals much larger than you'd expect, sometimes as big as deer or pigs. Once they've had a giant meal, they might not need to eat again for weeks or even months. Despite these similarities, their typical diets can differ a bit based on where they live. Anacondas, prowling rivers and swamps, often eat semi-aquatic and land animals that come for a drink. They'll eat fish, turtles, birds, and even caimans, relatives of crocodiles, when given the chance. A favorite meal is the capybara, which is a large guinea pig-like rodent that swims. Capybaras are like a buffet for a big anaconda. Anacondas have been known to take down deer and wild pigs, and there are even reports of them catching jaguars on rare occasions. It sounds incredible, but a huge female anaconda could theoretically overpower a small jaguar if she got the drop on it. They spend a lot of time submerged, waiting for prey to come close to the water's edge, and then bam, they strike. Sometimes an anaconda will also hang out in tree branches overhanging water, dropping down on prey like a scaly trapdoor spider. Pythons, like the reticulated python, are more likely to encounter land-based prey. Reticulated pythons commonly eat rodents, civet cats, birds, and large mammals such as monkeys, pigs, and deer. In the forests of Southeast Asia, a big retic python might ambush a wild pig or a small antelope, like a muntjac, coming to a path. They've even been known to prey on domestic animals, like goats or chickens if near villages. Pythons can climb trees to raid bird nests for eggs or chicks, and they can snatch bats out of the air from cave entrances. Imagine a snake hanging down and grabbing a flying bat. It happens. In some parts of their range, these pythons help control rat populations, which is beneficial to farmers. Their diet is broad. Basically, if it's the right size and moves, a python will consider it food. Who is who? By now, we have a clear picture of the differences between anacondas and pythons. In a nutshell, anacondas are heavy, water-loving South American boas, and pythons are long, tree-climbing or ground-slithering old-world snakes that lay eggs. If you remember that, you'll always know who is who. Both anacondas and pythons are non-venomous constrictors that play vital roles in their ecosystems. They may seem scary, but they are also fascinating and important animals worthy of respect. By understanding their differences, from appearance and size to behavior and birth, we replace fear with knowledge. Next time you see a giant snake, hopefully from a safe distance or at a zoo, you can impress your friends by saying, "That's not a python, it's an anaconda. Look how thick it is, and notice the color pattern." What is the difference between black mamba and green mamba? Have you ever looked at a snake and thought, okay, which one of those is going to kill me faster? Or maybe you have wondered, if the black mamba and the green mamba are both mambas, are they basically the same animal with a different paint job? Are they equally deadly? Do they even live in the same places? And here's a good one. Did you know the black mamba is not actually black? Both the black mamba and the green mamba belong to the same snake family, a group called Dendroaspis. They are African snakes, they are venomous, and they are both respected and feared by everyone who knows anything about them. But beyond sharing a last name, these two snakes are actually quite different animals. They look different, they live in different places, they hunt differently, and they even have different personalities, if you can call it that. For a long time, scientists actually thought the black mamba and the green mamba were the same species. Some people believe the mambas started green and turned dark as they got older. Others thought males were black and females were green. It sounds ridiculous now, but honestly, it is kind of understandable given how little was known at the time. It was not until 1946 that researchers officially confirmed they are two completely separate species. So yes, Science took a while on that one. Now, when people say green mamba, they might actually be referring to one of three species. There is the eastern green mamba, the western green mamba, and Jameson's mamba. For today, we are going to focus mainly on comparing the black mamba to the eastern green mamba. Those two are the most commonly discussed and the most closely related. Let's go. Appearance. Who looks like what? Let's start with the most obvious question. What do these snakes actually look like? First, the black mamba. Despite the name, the snake is almost never black, not even close. Its body is usually gray, olive, brown, or even a dark khaki color. The underside is a pale cream or white. So where does the black come from? The inside of its mouth. When a black mamba feels threatened, it opens its mouth wide in a warning display, and inside is a dark, inky blue-black color. That is where the name comes from. It is basically named after its teeth's waiting room. The black mamba also has a very distinctive head shape. It is long, narrow, and a little coffin-shaped, as if the snake needed to look more threatening. It has a slightly pronounced brow ridge that gives it this intense, focused look, like it is always annoyed about something. Now the green mamba, this one actually looks like its name suggests. The eastern green mamba is a bright, vivid green on its back, and its underside is a lighter yellowish green. If you look closely at the individual scales, each one fades from a lighter center to a darker edge, and together they create that beautiful, rich green color. Interestingly, baby green mambas are born a blue-green color and develop their full bright green as they mature. The green mamba has a narrow, elegant head. In fact, the scientific name, Augusticeps, literally means narrow head. It's a slender snake with a graceful build, and its green color blends into tree leaves almost perfectly. It is basically wearing camouflage at all times. Who is bigger? This is not a close competition. The black mamba wins by a wide margin. The black mamba is Africa's longest venomous snake. Adults typically measure between 6 and 10 feet. Some exceptional individuals have been recorded at over 13 feet. That is a very long snake. For reference, the average car is about 14.7 feet long. So yes, we are talking nearly car-length snake. They usually weigh up to around 4.4 pounds, so despite the size, they are not heavy animals. They are built lean and fast. The eastern green mamba is noticeably smaller. Females can reach up to about 5.9 to 6.6 feet, while males are usually a bit shorter. Some sources report females going up to 9.2 feet in very large specimens, but on average, you are looking at a snake that is significantly shorter and slimmer than a black mamba. It is lighter in build too, which makes it perfectly suited for life in the trees. Where do they live? Here is where things get really interesting, because these two snakes live in quite different environments, even though both are found in Africa. The black mamba lives across central, eastern, and southern parts of sub-Saharan Africa. It prefers dry, open environments, savannas, rocky hillsides, scrubland, and light woodland. It likes warm temperatures and tends to stay at lower elevations. One of the most important things to know about the black mamba's habitat is that it is primarily a ground dweller. It spends most of its time on the ground, slithering through grass, hunting in rock crevices, and resting in termite mounds or hollow logs. It does climb trees, and it does it well, but the ground is its main territory. The green mamba, on the other hand, lives in a very different kind of place. The eastern green mamba is found along the coastal regions of eastern and southern Africa, from the Eastern Cape in South Africa up through Mozambique, Tanzania, and into Kenya. And critically, it loves trees. This snake spends almost its entire life in the canopy of tropical coastal forests. It is perfectly built for it. Slim body, grippy scales, incredible balance. The green mamba sticks to wet, dense forests and coastal lowlands. You will not find it in dry savannas or open grasslands. In South Africa, It is usually found within just a few kilometers of the coastline. Personality check. If snakes had personalities, these two would be pretty different characters. The black mamba has a reputation as one of the most aggressive snakes in the world. And while that reputation is a bit exaggerated, it is not completely undeserved. The black mamba is described as nervous and alert. When it feels cornered or threatened, it does not mess around. It rears up the front section of its body, sometimes up to a third of its length, spreads a small hood, opens that famous black mouth wide, and hisses loudly. It is an extremely clear warning, and if you ignore that warning, it will strike repeatedly. The black mamba can deliver multiple bites in a single attack. The green mamba is a much calmer animal. It is described as shy and elusive. When it encounters a human or a threat, its instinct is to move away and hide, not to stand its ground. It very rarely opens its mouth in a threat display. It relies on its green camouflage to stay hidden, and most of the time it succeeds so well that people walk right past green mambas without ever knowing they were there. How dangerous are they? Both snakes are highly venomous. This is not a competition where one is dangerous and the other is not. They are both capable of killing a human if a bite goes untreated. But there are differences in severity and composition. The black mamba's venom is considered the more dangerous of the two. It contains a powerful mix of neurotoxins and cardiotoxins. Neurotoxins attack the nervous system, while cardiotoxins affect the heart. Symptoms after a bite can include dizziness, extreme fatigue, vision problems, difficulty breathing, foaming at the mouth, and paralysis. Without treatment, death from respiratory or cardiac failure can occur. The black mamba is also known for delivering large amounts of venom in a single bite, and it can bite multiple times in one encounter. It has front fangs that are up to 2.6 inches long. The green mamba's venom is also composed of neurotoxins and cardiotoxins, and it is absolutely capable of killing a person. However, the venom is considered somewhat less potent than the black mamba's on a volume-for-volume basis, and crucially, green mamba bites are much rarer because the snake rarely encounters humans and tends to flee rather than fight. Venom from a green mamba can start spreading through the body within the first 15 minutes after a bite. For both snakes, antivenom exists and works. The key in any snake bite scenario is to get to a hospital as fast as possible, minimize movement, apply a pressure bandage to the bite site, and do not try to suck the venom out or cut the wound. That only works in movies. The real treatment is antivenom, administered by medical professionals. The mistakes people make. Here is something worth knowing. Green mambas are often mistaken for other snakes, and other harmless green snakes are sometimes mistaken for green mambas. The most common mix-up is with the boomslang, another green African snake that is also venomous. There are also several harmless green snakes in the genus Phyllothomnus that look similar from a distance. The easiest way to tell them apart comes down to head shape and eye size. The green mamba has a narrow, elongated head and relatively small eyes. The boomslang has very large, distinctive eyes. The harmless green snakes tend to be smaller and more slender overall, but unless you really know what you are doing, the safest approach with any snake you cannot immediately identify is to back away slowly and give it space. No snake wants to bite you. It is always a last resort for them. The black mamba, despite not being black, is less likely to be confused with other snakes because of its size and its coffin-shaped head. When you see a 2.5-meter grayish snake with a narrow head rearing up in front of you, there is probably not a lot of ambiguity about what you are dealing with. Let's put it all together. The black mamba is larger, faster, and more aggressive. It lives on the ground in open savannas and rocky terrain across central, eastern, and southern Africa. It is the longest venomous snake in Africa, with a coffin-shaped head and a body that is gray or brown, not black. Its name comes from the inside of its mouth. The green mamba is smaller, more docile, and spends its life in the trees of tropical coastal forests along eastern Africa. It is vivid green, narrow-headed, and relies on camouflage and a preference for fleeing to stay out of trouble. It is shy, elusive, and far less likely to be encountered than its ground-dwelling cousin. Both are venomous, both deserve respect, neither deserves to be killed on sight. Both species play a real role in their ecosystems by controlling rodent and bird populations. The fear of snakes, especially in Africa, often leads to these animals being killed unnecessarily, which is both a shame and a threat to local biodiversity. These two snakes share a family name and share a continent, but they have carved out completely different lives for themselves. One rules the ground, fast and bold. The other rules the canopy, quiet and invisible. Both of them have been doing just fine for millions of years. The next time someone brings up mambas and says they are all the same, you can tell them just how different two snakes with the same last name can be. The black mamba and the green mamba are neighbors, not twins. And knowing the difference might just matter one day, hopefully not from personal experience. What is the difference between rattlesnakes and copperheads? Have you ever been walking through the woods, looked down, and frozen completely because there was a thick patterned snake just a few feet away from you? Did your brain immediately go into full panic mode? Did it have a rattle? Was it a copperhead? Was it even venomous at all? And more importantly, should you run, stay still, or quietly pray that it didn't notice you? Here's the thing. Most people who encounter a snake in the wild have no idea what they're actually looking at. They just see scales, a triangular head, and a pattern that screams danger, and that's enough for most folks to sprint in the opposite direction. But what if knowing the difference between two of North America's most common venomous snakes could actually save your life one day? What if, instead of panicking, you could look at that snake and say, "Yeah, I know exactly what you are." Today, we're going to break down two snakes that confuse people constantly: the rattlesnake and the copperhead. By the end of this video, you're going to be able to tell them apart, understand how they behave, where they live, what they eat, how dangerous they really are, and what actually to do if you come face to face with one. So let's get into it. Same family, very different snakes. Let's start with something important before we even get to the physical differences. Both rattlesnakes and copperheads belong to the same family of snakes. They're both pit vipers, which is a group of venomous snakes that have a very special superpower: a heat-sensing pit located between their eyes and nostrils. That little pit allows them to detect body heat from warm-blooded animals, which basically means they can find prey in complete darkness. Think of it like built-in night vision goggles, but scarier. Now, even though they share that feature, they are very different snakes. Copperheads go by the scientific name Achistrodon contortrix, and rattlesnakes belong to the genus Crotalus, which actually has around 36 known species. That's not a typo. Some of the most well-known rattlesnake species in North America include the eastern diamondback, the timber rattlesnake, the western diamondback, and the sidewinder. Each one has slightly different features, but they all share that iconic rattle. That rattle, by the way, is one of the clearest and most immediate ways you can tell a rattlesnake from a copperhead. Copperheads do not have a rattle. Full stop. If you hear that buzzing, shaking sound, you are dealing with a rattlesnake, not a copperhead. What they look like, appearance and size. If you want to identify these two snakes correctly, you have to pay attention to three main things: their pattern, their color, and their size. Let's start with the copperhead because, honestly, it has one of the most distinctive patterns of any snake in North America. The copperhead gets its name from the coppery tan color found mainly on its head. The body follows in similar warm tones of light red, tan, and brown, but the real giveaway is the pattern. Copperheads have dark brown crossbands on their bodies that look almost perfectly like hourglasses. Wide on the sides, narrow near the backbone. Some people describe them as looking like little brown dumbbells running down the snake's back. Adults usually grow between 2 to 4 feet long with a stocky, heavy build and very wide triangular head that looks almost like an arrowhead stuck onto the body. Rattlesnakes, on the other hand, come in a much wider range of looks because there are so many species. But if you were looking at some of the most common ones, like the timber rattlesnake or the eastern diamondback, they tend to be darker in overall tone. You're looking at shades of dark brown, gray, olive, and tan. Instead of the hourglass pattern of the copperhead, rattlesnakes typically have diamond-shaped or irregular blotchy patterns running down their backs. Their heads are also triangular and wide, like the copperhead, but the key difference is that you'll see a large, distinct rattle at the tip of the tail. Rattlesnakes also tend to get bigger, can range from 1 foot all the way up to 7 to 8 feet for the eastern diamondback, which is the largest venomous snake in North America. The average snake people encounter in the wild sits somewhere around 3 to 4 feet, but the big ones are genuinely impressive creatures. That iconic rattle, what it is, and how it works. Since the rattle is such a defining feature of rattlesnakes, let's take a moment to talk about what it actually is, because a lot of people think the rattle is some kind of hollow ball filled with seeds or pebbles, and that is not the case at all. The rattle is made of a series of interlocking hollow segments made from keratin, which is the same material that makes up your fingernails and hair. Every time the snake sheds its skin, which happens multiple times a year, a new segment is added to the rattle. When the snake vibrates its tail muscles, those segments click against each other and produce that buzzing, rattling sound. A newborn rattlesnake doesn't come into the world with a full rattle. It starts with just a single button. After its first shed, it gets a second segment, and once it has 3, it can produce the full rattle sound. Now, the copperhead doesn't have this warning system, but that doesn't mean it's completely silent when threatened. Copperheads have actually been known to shake their tails rapidly when scared, mimicking the behavior of a rattlesnake. When they do this in dry leaves, it can produce a sound surprisingly similar to a real rattle. It's a bluff, but it's a pretty effective one. Behavior. How these two snakes react when threatened. This is where things get really interesting, because these two snakes have completely different personalities when it comes to how they handle a threat, and understanding that difference is genuinely important if you ever find yourself too close to one. The copperhead's first line of defense is to do absolutely nothing. When it feels threatened, it freezes. It relies entirely on its incredible camouflage to stay hidden, and honestly, it's very good at it. It will stay completely still and hope you just walk past without noticing it. If you do get closer, it will start shaking that tail we just talked about. Get even closer, and it will lift its head and prepare to strike. But even then, a bite is a last resort. Rattlesnakes take a very different approach. They are far more upfront about the fact that they don't want you anywhere near them. When a rattlesnake feels threatened, it coils up, hisses, and shakes that rattle loudly. It's basically putting up a neon sign that says, "Stay back." I mean it. This warning system is actually one of the reasons rattlesnake bites are less common than you might expect, given how widespread these snakes are. Most people hear that rattle and immediately back off, which is exactly what the snake wants them to do. One thing worth knowing about both species is that neither of them is hunting you. You are too big to be their prey. Every bite they deliver to a human is defensive. They are not attacking you because they want to eat you. They are defending themselves because they feel cornered and terrified. If you respect their space, in almost every case, they will not bother you. Where they live. Habitat. Rattlesnakes are found in almost every part of the continental United States, and their range extends all the way from southern Canada down to central Argentina. They are adaptable in a way that's actually pretty impressive. You can find rattlesnakes in deserts, grasslands, forests, swamps, mountains, and even meadows. Most rattlesnake species tend to prefer rocky areas because rocks give them shelter from predators, plenty of prey like rodents and lizards that also live near rocks, and good open spots for basking in the sun. That said, you'll find different species specializing in very different environments. Copperheads have a much more focused range. They are found primarily in the eastern and central United States, from Massachusetts and southern New England all the way down to northern Florida and westward into Texas and Nebraska. They strongly prefer wooded areas, particularly those with rocky hillsides, dense leaf litter on the ground, and access to small streams or moist areas. You'll also find them around rotting wood piles, old stone walls, and suburban areas that border forests. Their ranges do overlap in some areas, particularly in the mid-Atlantic and southeastern United States, which means encountering both species in the same general region is entirely possible. In areas like Virginia, the Carolinas, and parts of Tennessee and Kentucky, you could technically run into a copperhead and a timber rattlesnake on the same hiking trail. That's not meant to scare you, it's just meant to make you look where you are stepping. The venom. How dangerous are they really? Here's where most people get very serious very quickly, and rightly so. Both snakes are venomous. Both snakes can cause real harm, but they are not equally dangerous, and understanding that difference matters. Copperhead venom is hemotoxic, meaning it attacks blood and tissue. A copperhead bite is extremely painful and causes significant swelling, bruising, and damage to the area around the bite. It needs medical attention, and you should absolutely get to a hospital if you're bitten. However, fatalities from copperhead bites are very rare. The venom, while genuinely harmful, is considered the weakest of all North American pit vipers. Rattlesnake venom is a different story. Rattlesnake venom is generally much more potent than copperhead venom, and it can vary quite a bit between species. Most rattlesnake venoms are also hemotoxic, attacking blood and tissue and causing rapid swelling, internal bleeding, and severe pain. However, some species, like the Mojave rattlesnake, also carry a neurotoxic component that affects the nervous system, which makes their bite significantly more dangerous. The eastern diamondback has the largest venom glands of any rattlesnake and can inject substantial amounts in a single strike. Why these snakes actually matter? Let's be real. A lot of people's first instinct when they see either of these snakes is to want it gone. But these snakes play a critical role in their ecosystems, and removing them from the picture causes real problems. Both rattlesnakes and copperheads are important controllers of rodent populations. Mice and rats reproduce quickly, carry diseases, and cause significant damage to crops and food supplies. Without snakes like these keeping their numbers in check, rodent populations would explode in ways that would directly affect human health and agriculture. So, as uncomfortable as it might be to think about it, that copperhead sitting in your woodpile is probably doing your neighborhood a favor by keeping the mouse population down. Both species are also prey for other animals. Hawks, eagles, foxes, raccoons, opossums, and other snakes like king snakes all hunt copperheads and rattlesnakes. They are part of a food web, and their absence would affect the animals above them in that web as well. That is why conservation of these species matters even when they scare people. What to do if you encounter one in the wild? Alright, this is the practical part. You're out on a hike and you spot one of these snakes. What do you actually do? First, and most importantly, stop moving and take a breath. Snakes are not going to charge at you. They don't see you as prey. They want this encounter to end just as much as you do. Look carefully at where the snake is and where you are relative to it. If it's a rattlesnake, you'll probably already know because you heard the rattle. If it's a copperhead, it may have been completely still this whole time and you only just noticed it. Back away slowly in the direction you came from. Don't make any sudden movements. If it's a rattlesnake and you've walked past it without realizing it, be careful not to back up toward it. A timber rattlesnake can strike roughly 1/3 to 1/2 of its body length. So for a 3-foot snake, you want to be at least 2 feet away before you truly feel safe, and more distance is always better. Do not try to pick it up, poke it with a stick, throw rocks at it, or in any way provoke it. Most snake bites happen when people try to handle or harass snakes. If you leave the snake alone, the snake will almost certainly leave you alone. If you are on a hiking trail or in an outdoor area, just take another route and let the snake go about its day. What to do if you are bitten? No matter which of these snakes bites you, the response is the same. Get to a hospital immediately. This is the most important piece of advice we can give you. Call emergency services or have someone drive you to the nearest emergency room. Try to stay as calm as possible because elevated heart rates speed up how quickly venom spreads through your system. Keep the bitten area still and at or below heart level if possible. Do not cut the bite and try to suck out the venom. Do not apply ice or cold packs. Do not use a tourniquet. Do not apply any kind of electric shock treatment, which is something that somehow became a folk remedy at some point. None of these things help, and some of them actually make the situation worse. The anti-venom at the hospital is what helps. Get there. If you can safely take a photo of the snake from a distance, that can help medical staff identify which snake was responsible and provide the most appropriate treatment. But do not put yourself in danger trying to capture or photograph the snake up close. Doctors can treat based on symptoms even without knowing the exact species. Putting it all together, who is who? So let's bring everything together. If you're standing in front of a snake and trying to figure out what you're looking at, here's the mental checklist that should run through your head. Does it have a rattle on its tail? If yes, that is a rattlesnake. No rattle and no buzzing sound means it could be a copperhead or any number of non-venomous snakes. Next, look at the pattern. Hourglass shapes running down the sides, wide at the edges and narrow near the spine with warm copper and brown tones, that's a copperhead. Diamond or irregular blotchy patterns in darker brown or gray tones, that's more consistent with a rattlesnake. Is the snake completely frozen and relying on camouflage while you try to identify it? Copperhead behavior. Is it coiled, hissing, and making it very loudly clear that you are not welcome? Rattlesnake behavior. Regarding danger, the copperhead bites more people each year simply because of its camouflage and freeze response, but its venom is weaker and fatalities are exceptionally rare. The rattlesnake has more potent venom, delivers more venom per bite thanks to larger glands, and its bite is a more serious medical event, but its warning system means you usually know when you are getting too close. Both snakes are remarkable animals. They've been on this planet for millions of years. They're highly adapted, efficient hunters that help keep ecosystems in balance. They ask only one thing of us: a little space and a little respect. The fear people feel around these snakes is completely understandable, but fear that comes from not knowing is much worse than fear that comes from understanding. Knowing what these animals are, how they behave, and what they actually want out of any encounter with a human, which is just to be left alone, makes you a safer person in their territory and a more informed one in general. So the next time you're hiking and you spot that thick patterned body in the leaves, you're not going to panic. You're going to stop, assess, back up slowly, and appreciate the fact that you just had a very close look at one of nature's most fascinating and misunderstood creatures. Then you are going to find a different path. Because respecting wildlife isn't just good sense. It's what keeps both you and the snake walking away from that moment just fine. That's it for today's video. If you learned something new, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this with anyone you know who spends time outdoors. Because knowledge like this is the kind that genuinely matters when you are out there in the wild. Stay curious, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one. What is the difference between king cobras and Indian cobras? You've seen it 100 times. The snake rises from the basket, spreads that massive hood, and sways slowly to the sound of a flute. The crowd gasps. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a question pops up. Is that a king cobra, or is it just a regular cobra? And if they're both cobras, what exactly makes one the king? Is it just a bigger version of the same snake? Is the king cobra more dangerous? Or is the Indian cobra actually the one you should be more scared of? Because here's something that surprises a lot of people. The smaller one might be the deadlier one. So which is which, and how do you actually tell them apart? These two snakes are probably the most famous venomous snakes in Asia. They both spread hoods, they both carry venom that can kill, and they both go by the name cobra. But they are not the same animal, not even close. And by the end of this video, you are going to know exactly who is who, what makes each of them special, and why the distinction matters way more than most people think. They share a name, but they're not actually the same kind of snake. Let's start with the most surprising fact in this entire video, because most people have no idea about this one. The king cobra is not technically a true cobra. Think about that for a second. The animal literally called a cobra is not classified as a cobra. Here's what that means. The Indian cobra belongs to the genus Naja. When biologists talk about true cobras, they mean snakes in the Naja group, and there are more than 30 species in that group spread across Africa and Asia. The Indian cobra, scientific name Naja, is one of them. The king cobra, on the other hand, belongs to a completely different genus called Ophiophagus. It is the only member of that genus. No other snake in the world shares that classification with it. So, genetically speaking, the king cobra is actually more closely related to mambas than it is to the Indian cobra. That's a little humbling for a snake that has cobra right there in its name. The word Ophiophagus actually translates to snake eater, and that name tells you a lot about what kind of animal this is. We'll come back to that when we talk about diet. Both snakes belong to the Elapidae family, which is the broader group of venomous snakes that includes mambas, kraits, and sea snakes. So they are related in the way that, say, a wolf and a domestic dog are related. Same family, very different animals. What they look like, appearance, and how to tell them apart. Both snakes have the hood, both have scales, and both can look intimidating from any distance. But there are clear visual differences if you know where to look. The king cobra is, without any debate, the longest venomous snake on Earth. Adults typically grow between 10 and 12 feet long, and the largest individuals on record have reached close to 19 feet. They are heavy-bodied snakes that can weigh anywhere from 13 to over 20 pounds. Their coloring runs from olive green to brownish black, usually with lighter yellow or cream-colored bands or crossbars running down the body. The head is large, flat, and clearly distinct from the neck, with prominent nostrils and alert eyes. When a king cobra rises to defend itself, it can lift the front third of its body off the ground, which means a large king cobra can look you in the eyes while standing on the lower part of its body. That experience tends to leave a mark on people. The Indian cobra is much smaller. Most adults grow between 3 and 5 feet long, with some specimens, particularly from Sri Lanka, occasionally reaching around 7 feet, though that's on the large end. They typically weigh between 2 and 6 pounds. Their coloring is highly variable depending on where they live. You can find Indian cobras in shades of yellow, olive, tan, dark brown, or close to black. The body is moderately slender, and the head is slightly flat with round eyes that give it an almost curious, wide-eyed look when it's relaxed. The hood itself works the same way in both species. Neither snake inflates it like a balloon. What actually happens is that the snake extends its elongated neck ribs outward, and the skin between those ribs stretches flat to create the wide, flat shape. The hood is a defense mechanism, not a weapon. When a cobra spreads its hood, it is not preparing to attack. It is frightened. It is making itself look as large and as intimidating as possible in the hope that whatever scared it will back off and leave it alone. The cobra wants to avoid the confrontation just as much as you do. Fangs, the delivery system. Both snakes have fixed fangs, which is one of the defining features of the elapid family. Unlike vipers, which have long folding fangs that swing forward when they strike, elapid fangs stay in place at the front of the mouth at all times. They do not retract. This means the snakes cannot open their mouths as wide as a viper would, but their delivery system is fast and precise. The king cobra has fangs roughly a ½ inch long. The Indian cobra's fangs are closer to 1/3 of an inch. That difference in fang length matters because longer fangs mean deeper penetration and a larger venom delivery. The king cobra can inject a significant amount of venom in a single strike because its large body produces more venom and its longer fangs reach deeper. The Indian cobra bites with a quick stabbing motion and sometimes a chewing action that helps push more venom into the wound. Behavior. Very different personalities. This is where these two snakes really go their separate ways, and it's genuinely one of the most important differences to understand. The king cobra is described by wildlife researchers as reclusive, cautious, and generally avoidant of humans. It prefers dense forest and tends to move away from people when given the chance. When it does feel cornered or threatened, though, it makes its feelings extremely clear. A threatened king cobra rises up, spreads its narrower hood, opens its mouth to reveal the pale interior, and produces a hiss that is unlike anything you'd expect from a snake. King cobra hisses are lower in pitch than most snakes, almost resembling a growl. Some descriptions call it like listening to a cat hissing in a tunnel. It's an unnerving sound. And then the snake charges. The Indian cobra has a different temperament. It is more territorial, more reactive, and quicker to feel threatened. When surprised or cornered, it rises, spreads that wide fan-shaped hood and hisses, but it can move from threat display to striking faster than the king cobra typically does. It is also far more likely to be in places where people are. The Indian cobra lives near farms, rice paddies, villages, suburban edges, garbage areas, and anywhere with a good supply of rodents. That proximity to humans is part of why it's responsible for so many more bites than the king cobra. It's not necessarily that it's more aggressive in a pure sense, it's that you're much more likely to accidentally step on one or startle one in a cornfield at night. Where they live, habitat, and range. The king cobra's range stretches across South and Southeast Asia. You will find it in India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, southern China, Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines. It prefers dense, moist forest environments. Tropical rainforests, highland forests, bamboo thickets, mangrove swamps, and areas near streams and rivers are all prime king cobra territory. It tends to stay away from open farmland and heavily populated areas, which is a big part of why human encounters are relatively rare. The king cobra is also a strong swimmer and an able climber, so water and trees are not barriers to it at all. The Indian cobra's range is more focused, but includes some of the most densely populated land on the planet. It is found across India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, and parts of Afghanistan. What sets the Indian cobra apart in terms of habitat is its willingness and almost preference for living near people. Agricultural land, rice paddies, irrigation canals, and areas near human settlements with good rodent populations are all comfortable territory for the Indian cobra. It shelters in termite mounds, tree hollows, rock piles, old walls, and the spaces beneath buildings. In some rural areas of South Asia, sharing space with an Indian cobra is just a part of life in a way that it simply isn't with the king cobra. The ranges of these two snakes do overlap significantly in parts of India, particularly in forested regions. So it is possible to encounter both species in the same country, but you'd find them in very different settings. Walk into a primary forest reserve in India, and you might see a king cobra. Walk through a rice village after dark, and your concern is more likely to be an Indian cobra. The venom, more complex than you think. Here's where the popular assumption and the actual science start to pull apart, and it's worth understanding both sides clearly. Most people assume the king cobra, being the largest venomous snake in the world, must therefore have the most dangerous bite. And in terms of sheer volume, that assumption has a point. The king cobra has very large venom glands, and it can inject a substantial amount of venom in a single bite. Some accounts note that a single large king cobra bite could contain enough venom to kill an elephant, though in practice the snake rarely deploys its full venom capacity in a single defensive strike against a human. Its venom is primarily neurotoxic, meaning it attacks the nervous system. Symptoms after a bite include severe pain at the site, swelling, blurred vision, dizziness, and a rapid progression toward paralysis. Without treatment, respiratory failure follows as the muscles controlling breathing are affected. Death can occur in as little as 30 minutes in severe cases. The Indian cobra's venom is considered more potent by concentration. That means drop for drop, the Indian cobra's venom contains a stronger punch than the king cobra's. The Indian cobra venom is also primarily neurotoxic, but it carries an additional component, cardiotoxins. These affect the heart directly and can cause cardiovascular effects to appear faster than with a purely neurotoxic bite. The combination of neurotoxic and cardiotoxic activity means the Indian cobra bite can be medically complex, and symptoms move quickly without treatment. The probability of death from an untreated Indian cobra bite is estimated to be between 20 and 30%, and treatment must begin as soon as possible. So, which bite is more dangerous in practice? The king cobra bite, if it injects a full load of venom, is an immediate and severe medical emergency that moves fast. The Indian cobra bite is also a serious emergency, and statistically speaking, it kills more people every year. But that is largely a function of encounter frequency rather than the venom being inherently more lethal than the king cobras. The Indian cobra simply bites more humans because it lives near more humans. The king cobra, despite being the larger and more physically imposing snake, is responsible for far fewer human deaths each year, precisely because most people never go anywhere near one. What to do if you encounter either of these snakes? If you are traveling in South or Southeast Asia and you come across a cobra, the response is the same regardless of which species you're looking at. Stop moving, take a breath, look at the snake without making any sudden motion. If the snake has its hood up, it is already in threat mode, which means it feels cornered or scared. Your job is to give it a reason to calm down and move away. Back up slowly in the direction you came from. Do not turn and run. Running can trigger a chase response, and a motivated cobra moves fast. Keep your eyes on it, give it a wide path, and let it be the one to leave. If you find a king cobra near your camp or hiking path in a forested area, give it a lot of space. King cobra strike range is significant, and they are capable of covering ground quickly when they charge. Experienced wildlife handlers treat the king cobra with the same level of seriousness as any other apex predator. If you see one, you watch it from a safe distance. You do not approach it. And you feel genuinely fortunate to have had the encounter at all, because most people who spend time in king cobra territory never see one. If you're in rural South Asia and you encounter an Indian cobra near a building or a farm, contact a local snake rescuer or wildlife authority. Do not attempt to handle it yourself, and do not kill it. In many parts of India, killing a cobra is illegal, and beyond the legal issue, it deprives the ecosystem of an important predator that keeps rodent populations in check. If you or someone with you is bitten by either snake, the response is straightforward. Get to a hospital immediately. Call emergency services or go directly to the nearest medical facility. Keep the bitten limb still and at or below heart level. Do not cut the bite and attempt to suck the venom out. Do not apply ice, do not tie a tourniquet, and do not waste time on traditional remedies. The antivenom is at the hospital. That is where you need to be. Putting it all together, now you know who is who. Let's run through the final comparison, one time, clean and simple. If the snake in front of you is enormous, 10 feet or more, olive to brownish black with faint banding, and its hood is narrow and angular, that is a king cobra. If it rises and you're looking at something that reaches your chest height while the lower half of its body is still on the ground, that is a king cobra. If you are deep in a Southeast Asian forest or a South Asian nature reserve and you hear a low, almost guttural hiss, that is a king cobra telling you very directly that you are too close. If the snake is 3 to 5 feet long, has a wide rounded hood with what looks like a pair of glasses drawn on the back in dark and white markings, and you are anywhere near a rice field, a village, or a farm in South Asia, that is an Indian cobra. If you are in India or Sri Lanka and you hear a sharp high hiss followed by the sight of a snake rising and spreading a wide, flat hood, that is an Indian cobra. In terms of what to be more cautious about in daily life, the Indian cobra poses a higher statistical risk simply because of how often it crosses paths with people. In terms of what you would not want to corner or antagonize under any circumstances, both of these snakes make that list. But the king cobra's combination of size, venom volume, and charging behavior puts it in a category of its own. And here's the thing about both of them that is easy to miss in all the fear and fascination. These are remarkable animals. The Indian cobra has been living alongside human civilization in South Asia for thousands of years, earning a place in mythology, religion, and agriculture that no other snake in the world can match. The king cobra is a forest predator of extraordinary intelligence and capability, the longest venomous snake on the planet, a creature that builds nests and guards its young and hunts other venomous snakes without hesitation. They don't need our fear, they need our understanding, because animals that are understood are protected, and animals that are protected are still here for the next generation to be amazed by. That's a much better outcome than the alternative. That's everything for today. If you got something new from this video, drop a like, share it with someone who loves wildlife, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. We've got more incredible animal comparisons coming, and trust me, some of them are going to surprise you just as much as today's did. What's the difference between Burmese pythons and reticulated pythons? Ever wonder what sets these two giant snakes apart? Is the reticulated python just a longer version of the Burmese python? Or are they truly different creatures? What do they eat? Where do they live? And how big do they get? In this script, we'll slither through all the facts, appearance, size, behavior, and more, so you can spot a Burmese python from a reticulated python at a glance. Let's go. Appearance and color patterns. Burmese pythons, Python bivittatus, have thick, heavy bodies covered in tan or cream-colored scales with large, dark brown blotches outlined in black. Imagine a tan blanket sprinkled with big, irregular, chocolate brown spots. Young Burmese pythons usually show very crisp contrasts between light and dark patches. Their heads often have a pattern that includes a light arrow or spear shape between the eyes, though exact markings can vary. In general, Burmese pythons look chunky with bold blotches. Reticulated pythons, Malaya python reticulatus, are named for their net-like pattern. They have grayish-tan bodies marked with complex X or diamond-shaped blotches made up of black, white, yellow, and even red scales. The overall effect is a multicolored mesh or mosaic. In other words, if a Burmese's pattern is like big polka dots, a retic's pattern is like a fancy patchwork quilt. Retics usually have smooth brown scales on the head and a narrow black line running from their nose to the neck. Their eyes are often an orange-gold color with vertical pupils. In contrast, Burmese python eyes tend to be more brownish-green. When you see a python in the forest, note that Burmese patterns have large rounded patches, while retic patterns are smaller, more angular, and highly intricate. This difference in color pattern is one of the easiest ways to tell them apart. Besides color, body shape helps distinguish them. Burmese pythons are extremely thick-bodied and muscular. An adult female Burmese can be surprisingly heavy and plump. Reticulated pythons are also muscular but generally more elongated and slender in comparison. Think of the Burmese as a stocky heavyweight and the retic as a lean marathon runner, both powerful but built differently. Size and strength. When it comes to size, both snakes are enormous, but in slightly different ways. Burmese pythons are among the longest and heaviest snakes in the world. In the wild, they typically reach around 10 to 16 feet. Most adult Burmese pythons you might encounter are under 16 feet long. The record confirmed wild Burmese python was about 19 feet long. They are very thick. Large females can weigh up to roughly 200 pounds. In captivity, an exceptionally large famous pet Burmese named Baby weighed 403 pounds and was 18 feet 10 inches long. In general, however, Burmese pythons are shorter and far more heavy-bodied than most reticulated pythons. Reticulated pythons hold the title for the world's longest snakes. The longest recorded reticulated python measured about 32.8 feet. Today's known largest reticulated pythons usually top out around 23 to 26 feet. On average, retics are longer than Burmese, but they are somewhat less bulky. Most adult reticulated pythons weigh between 165 to 386 pounds, which overlaps with Burmese weights, but with a different shape. Notably, female retics tend to be longer than males. Some individual retics have reportedly weighed as much as 600 pounds, though such giants are extremely rare. So, if you see a python over 6 meters long, it's very likely a reticulated python. If it's very thick and heavy, it's likely a Burmese. The Burmese look more like a freight train, short and thick, while the retic looks like a long rope. Habitat and range. Both species hail from Southeast Asia, but their ranges overlap only partly. Burmese pythons live in southern China, Nepal, India, East, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Burma, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Malaysia, and parts of Indonesia like Java and Bali. They favor warm, humid environments and always stay near water. You'll find them in grasslands, marshes, woodlands, river valleys, and jungle clearings. They are excellent swimmers and often hunt in or near swamps and rivers. Burmese pythons in the wild are quite adaptable. They thrive in seasonally flooded forests and even dry savannas as long as water is available. Reticulated pythons occupy a huge range across South and Southeast Asia, mostly in tropical forests. Their range extends from northeastern India and Bangladesh through Myanmar and Thailand, across Malaysia and the Philippines, and south through Indonesia's islands, Sumatra, Borneo, Java, Sulawesi, etc. Essentially, if it's a warm forest in that region, retics might be there. They often live near water too, rivers, swamps, or rice paddies, but are also found deeper in jungles and even near villages or farmlands. Because they can climb well, they sometimes venture into trees or buildings. Retics have even been spotted near cities, hiding in sewers and bushes by night. In summary, both snakes like warm, wet habitats, but Burmese pythons are often more tied to marshlands and wetlands on the mainland, while reticulated pythons are spread across islands and forests. If you travel through the jungles of Thailand or Malaysia, you might meet either or both of them. But Burmese pythons also range farther west into India and South China. In practice, your best clue is geography. In Indonesia or the Philippines, it's almost certainly a reticulated python. In Myanmar or India, it would be Burmese. Hunting style and wild behavior. Both Burmese and reticulated pythons are ambush predators, meaning they lie in wait and strike suddenly at passing prey. They are constrictors. After grabbing prey with their teeth, they coil tightly around it and squeeze it until it suffocates. But their approach and preferred prey can differ. In the wild, Burmese pythons usually hunt at night. They are primarily nocturnal. Young Burmese snakes are agile climbers and can hunt in trees, but large adults mostly stay on the ground or in water. They often hide under underbrush or in water near animal trails, waiting motionless. When a suitable animal, like a rodent, bird, or small mammal, comes close, the python strikes, then coils up and suffocates the victim. Burmese pythons have strong constricting power and can take down surprisingly large animals. In their native range, and in places they've invaded, like the Florida Everglades, Burmese pythons have been recorded eating raccoons, deer, pigs, goats, alligators, and many other animals. After such a huge meal, they often stay coiled up, almost immobile, digesting for weeks. Burmese pythons are excellent swimmers as well. They sometimes hunt in or near water, grabbing creatures at the water's edge or even swimming to ambush prey. Reticulated pythons also hunt mostly at night. They are extremely patient predators too. Retics often hide in trees or tall grass, curling their bodies on branches or in thick foliage. In fact, they are very good climbers and will sneakily wait for monkeys, bats, or birds in trees. Like Burmese pythons, retics have heat-sensing pits on their lips, so they detect warm-blooded prey even in total darkness. A retic may sit in a tree or on the forest floor until a bat, mouse, or monkey wanders by, then lunge with lightning speed. Reticulated pythons have a wider variety of prey reported: bats, tree shrews, pigs, deer, monitor lizards, even domestic cats and dogs in rural areas. They have been known to attack and try to eat people on rare occasions, usually in remote areas, but such incidents are extremely uncommon. A quick note on behavior differences. Burmese pythons are often described as more docile or slow-moving than retics, though both can strike if startled. Reticulated pythons are known for a strong feeding response and may be more inclined to bite when disturbed, while Burmese pythons, especially if raised around humans, tend to tolerate handling better. Both should be respected as powerful predators, of course. In the wild, neither snake is aggressive toward humans unless provoked. In practice, a wary hiker is much safer from these snakes than from many wild animals. Diet and predation. What do these giants eat? Almost anything that moves and fits in their mouths. As ambush hunters, they feed on a wide range of animals. Burmese pythons are feeding on small mammals like rats and rabbits, but also large prey. Wild Burmese pythons have eaten deer, pigs, goats, and even alligators. In Florida's Everglades, where they are invasive, they've been blamed for a massive decline in raccoons, opossums, bobcats, and other mid-sized mammals. Essentially, a Burmese python will eat anything from a small rodent up to, in extreme cases, a large ungulate. They swallow prey head first, thanks to their stretchy jaws and skin. After eating, they become couch potatoes. Digesting a huge meal can tie them up for weeks. Retics eat lots of mammals and birds, often those living near water or trees. Recorded prey includes bats, monkeys, deer, wild boars, pigs, and even primates. Because retics are in island forests, they sometimes prey on island-specific animals too, like civets or small cats. They will also eat domestic animals when near villages, such as pigs or dogs. And there are stories of retics attacking people, mostly in regions where humans and retics come into contact. One study notes retic pythons may be the snake species most likely to attack humans in their native range, often related to how people live in close contact. Again, these are very rare events. To sum up diet differences, in nature, there's a lot of overlap. Burmese and retic are both generalist predators. They take whatever large prey is available. Both will happily eat rodents and birds, and both can handle large mammals. Retics might climb more to catch arboreal prey, monkeys and birds, while Burmese may ambush prey in swamps or on the ground. Both are powerful constrictors. If they wrap around you, you won't breathe. A scary thought, but attacks on humans are almost never unprovoked. Reproduction and lifespan. Both Burmese and reticulated pythons are egg layers, oviparous, and practice maternal care of eggs. Females of both species breed once a year, usually timed with warm seasons. Burmese pythons mate in the cooler months and lay eggs in spring to early summer. A female Burm may lay anywhere from about 12 to 36 eggs. Some very large ones can lay more. After laying eggs, the mother coils around the clutch and incubates them for roughly 2 months, even twitching her muscles, shivering, to generate heat. When the eggs hatch, dozens of tiny pythons emerge, fully independent. Juvenile Burmese are about 6 to 70 centimeters long at hatching. They grow rapidly if food is plentiful. Females mature around 3 to 4 years old. Burmese pythons can live over 20 years in the wild, and even longer, 25 plus years, in captivity. Interestingly, Burmese pythons can reproduce without males in a process called parthenogenesis. Documented in captivity, a lone female laid fertile eggs. Reticulated pythons have a similar life cycle. They breed around February-March in many areas, and females can lay a large clutch. Reports range from about 8 up to over 100 eggs, but typically it's on the order of 25 to 50 eggs. If food is scarce, they may skip a year. The female retic also coils over her eggs and warms them until they hatch, using shivering thermogenesis just like the Burmese. Hatchling retics are around 24 inches long and instantly independent. They grow for years. Females reach maturity when around 3 to 5 years old. Remarkably, reticulated pythons are also known to reproduce parthenogenetically in captivity, though this is rare. Their lifespan is similar to Burmese, often 20 years or more under good conditions. In short, both species follow the classic python strategy: lay many eggs, guard them for a while, and then the babies are on their own. Neither species raises the young after hatching. This means that juvenile pythons have to immediately be good hunters, eating small animals until they grow big. Behavior and temperament. In people's minds, these snakes can seem a bit terrifying. They're huge after all. But both Burmese and reticulated pythons are generally secretive and slow-moving unless threatened. They do not chase people or display aggression unless provoked. Burmese pythons are often described as calm and somewhat docile when it comes to handling, which has made them popular in the pet trade. They tolerate gentle handling if raised accustomed to humans. This is not to say they are cuddly pets. A full-grown Burmese can overpower a human easily. It's happened when people weren't cautious. But on their own turf, Burmese pythons are mostly shy. In the wild, they spend much of the day hidden. At night, they slowly explore or hunt. They bask in the sun near water or simply rest coiled under bushes. Reticulated pythons tend to be a bit more nervous around humans. Many owners and experts note that young retics can be flighty or nippy if startled. They have an extremely strong feeding response. When hungry, a retic may strike very quickly at anything in range, including a hand. This means they often require more cautious handling and stronger enclosures than Burmese. In captivity, retics have a reputation for being more aggressive than Burms, though again this varies by individual. In the wild, a retic snake posed quietly in a tree or grass is unlikely to do much until prey appears. Like Burmese, a surprised retic will do its best to escape rather than fight. Striking is usually defensive. One difference in behavior is habitat use. Young Burmese are good climbers, but adults prefer the ground. All reticulated pythons, young and old, climb readily. You'll often find an adult retic looped on a tree branch waiting for a meal. Burmese are more tied to waterways and the forest floor. Another behavioral note: Burmese pythons do brumation, a reptile form of hibernation, in cold weather by slowing down their metabolism, sometimes even up in a tree. Reticulated pythons, living in more uniformly warm climates, tend not to brumate. They remain active year-round as long as prey is around. Finally, both snakes can become very aware of humans if encountered in the wild. They often freeze or flee rather than attack. There are rare reports of either species attacking people, but these usually involve provoked or handled snakes. Scientists emphasize that healthy wild pythons of either kind do not hunt people. So the bottom line, neither Burmese nor reticulated pythons are out to get you. They're more interested in mice, birds, pigs, or the next meal than in human beings. Conservation and human interaction. A quick word on how humans and these snakes intersect. Burmese pythons are listed as vulnerable by the IUCN in their native range due to habitat loss and hunting for their skin and meat. However, their population in places like Florida has exploded from released pets, making them an invasive pest there. Meanwhile, reticulated pythons are currently listed as least concern. They're also hunted heavily for leather and the pet trade because their skins are gorgeous and they're popular exotic pets, but wild populations are still robust. Both species can sometimes be kept in zoos or by very experienced keepers. In captivity, they can live 20 to 30 years. Burmese pythons adapt well to large enclosures with water and hiding spots. Reticulated pythons need very secure housing, they're strong escape artists, and lots of climbing space. Neither snake is suitable for beginners. They get huge and can be dangerous if mishandled. Despite popular media portrayals, these snakes rarely attack people unprovoked. Conservationists often point out that they provide pest control by eating rodents and other animals. Still, caution is wise. Both species have earned respect because of their size and strength. In areas where humans and these pythons share land, like rural Asia, people sometimes kill them out of fear. Education about these snakes' true behavior helps reduce unnecessary killings. So, who is who? By now, you should be able to tell a Burmese python and a reticulated python apart. The Burmese python usually has a tan background with large dark brown patches that form bold circular shapes along its body. The reticulated python, by contrast, has a more complex pattern made of diamond-shaped or net-like markings in multiple colors over a tan or gray background. The head of the Burmese python is thicker, and its markings are simpler, while the reticulated python has a more intricate head pattern with fine stripes and distinctive bright orange eyes. The Burmese python is extremely heavy-bodied and can reach lengths of about 5.8 meters, making it one of the heaviest snakes in the world. The reticulated python is typically longer, with some individuals exceeding 7 to 8 meters and rare reports approaching around 10 meters, although it tends to be more slender in build. In both species, females are generally larger and heavier than males. Burmese pythons live mainly in mainland Southeast Asia and are strongly associated with wetlands, marshes, and forests located near rivers or other water sources. Reticulated pythons are distributed across island and peninsular Southeast Asia and occupy tropical forests, farmland, and areas close to human settlements. Both snakes are nocturnal ambush predators that rely on camouflage and patience to catch prey. Burmese pythons often wait on the ground or remain partly submerged in water while hunting. Reticulated pythons more frequently hide in vegetation, tall grass, or even trees before striking. Burmese pythons are generally considered calmer in temperament, while reticulated pythons are often more reactive and high-strung. The diet of both species is very similar and consists mainly of mammals and birds that can reach the size of goats or other medium-large animals. Burmese pythons have been documented attacking animals such as deer and even alligators, while reticulated pythons have been recorded capturing pigs, monkeys, and other primates. Neither species normally targets humans as prey. If you saw one of these snakes slithering by, your best clue is the pattern and build. The one with the neat diamond net pattern is the reticulated python, and the hefty one with bold round patches is the Burmese python. Remember, whatever name you call them by, these snakes are incredible apex predators, beautifully adapted for a life of stealth and strength. What is the difference between a black mamba and a king cobra? Which snake is the true king of killers? The lightning-fast black mamba or the colossal king cobra? If you ever come face to face with these two infamous serpents, would you know which is which? Both are legends in the snake world, feared and revered for their venom and aggression. But despite their similar reputations, the black mamba and the king cobra are worlds apart in many ways. From their looks and size to their behavior and venom, these snakes have unique traits that set them apart. In today's video, we'll slither into their world to compare them side by side. Ready to enter the snake pit and learn the differences? Let's dive in. Meet the black mamba and the king cobra. A black mamba in its natural habitat, showing its typical grayish-brown color and slender, athletic body. Despite its name, the black mamba isn't actually black on the outside. Its scales are usually gray, olive, or brownish with a pale underbelly. The name black comes from the inside of its mouth, which is a deep inky black or bluish-gray. Black mambas have a coffin-shaped head and a lean, lithe body built for speed. They average around 6.5 to 8 feet long, but can grow up to 14 to 15 feet at maximum. Despite reaching such lengths, they are relatively slender snakes, typically weighing only about 3.5 to 4.5 pounds. A king cobra rears up with its hood spread, Note the broad head and spectacle-like patterns on the hood. King cobras have a very different look. They can be various colors: olive green, brown, tan, or even black, usually with light yellowish or whitish crossbands or chevron patterns down the length of the body. One of the most distinctive features is the hood. When a king cobra feels threatened, it expands the skin of its neck into a wide hood with rib-like markings, making it appear much larger. Size-wise, king cobras are the giants of venomous snakes. They commonly reach 10 to 13 feet and are capable of growing up to about 18+ feet in length. Their weight is also impressive. A full-grown king cobra can weigh around 10 to 15 pounds, with some exceptional individuals up to 10 kilograms. In other words, the king cobra is not just longer, but also 3 to 4 times heavier than a black mamba. Habitat and range. These two snakes never meet in the wild because they live on different continents. King cobras make their homes in South and Southeast Asia. They favor dense rainforests, bamboo thickets, mangrove swamps, and sometimes agricultural areas, generally places that are humid and have plenty of cover. Picture the lush jungles of India, Thailand, Malaysia, or Indonesia. That's king cobra country. They often stay near streams or water sources in forests and can handle a variety of elevations as long as it's warm and there's a good supply of prey. Black mambas, by contrast, live in sub-Saharan Africa. They are found from South Africa and Namibia in the south up through East Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Ethiopia, and into parts of West and Central Africa, though they prefer the eastern and southern regions. Their ideal habitat is savanna, bushland, and rocky outcrops. Think more open, dry country compared to the king cobra's jungle. Black mambas like areas with some cover, like low shrubs or the occasional trees and rocks. Behavior and temperament. Shy king versus nervous killer. One key difference between these snakes is how they behave, especially around humans or threats. The king cobra has a bit of a royal attitude, generally dignified and reserved. Despite its fearsome reputation, king cobras are usually shy around humans and try to avoid confrontation. When a king cobra is provoked or defending itself, watch out. It will raise the front part of its body up, sometimes up to 1/3 of its length. Imagine a cobra raising over 1.5 meters of its body off the ground. It spreads that iconic hood wide and lets out a low, rumbling hiss, a warning sound that can be quite unnerving. It usually aims to intimidate rather than immediately bite. If you back off, often the cobra will also retreat. But if it decides to strike, it tends to strike with remarkable precision, often delivering a single bite, or a few bites, to vital areas. Now, the black mamba has a reputation that can send a shiver down anyone's spine. These snakes are often considered high-strung, nervous, and very aggressive when threatened. In fact, many consider the black mamba more aggressive than the cobra. If a black mamba feels cornered or startled, it doesn't typically try to slink away quietly. Instead, it might stand its ground. A threatened black mamba will raise the front of its body, open its mouth wide to flash the black inside, and even spread its neck skin slightly, forming a narrow hood. The black mamba is famously fast and can lunge and bite extremely quickly. This snake has been called death incarnate in African lore because once it decides to fight, it can be relentless. However, it's worth noting that in reality, black mambas, like most snakes, usually only bite humans if they feel threatened or cannot escape. Speed and movement. When it comes to quickness, the black mamba is legendary. It's often cited as the fastest land snake in the world. These snakes can slither at speeds of around 12 miles per hour in short bursts. 12 miles per hour might not sound blistering, but consider that it's on par with a quick human sprint, and far faster than most people can run through bush or uneven ground. In the snake world, that's practically supercharged. They move with an S-shaped lateral motion and can propel themselves incredibly fast, especially on flat ground. In contrast, king cobras are not particularly fast movers. They're large and can move steadily, but their top speed is around 5 miles per hour at most, which is much slower than the mamba. King cobras rely more on their size and stealth when hunting rather than outright speed. They can chase a bit when in combat, especially with another snake, but they don't have the sprinting ability of a mamba. Diet and hunting: fussy snake eater versus opportunistic hunter. Another big difference is what they like to eat. King cobras are famous for being snake eaters. In fact, their scientific name, Ophiophagus, literally means snake eater. Their favorite prey is other snakes. They'll hunt and eat a variety of snakes, including rat snakes, small pythons, and even other venomous snakes like kraits or cobras. If food is scarce, king cobras might also take lizards, rodents, or birds, but snakes are their meal of choice. They use their eyesight and smell to track other snakes and will follow them, then strike and bite. Once they bite and envenomate another snake, they often hang on until the prey is subdued, or they'll wait for the venom to do its job if the other snake gets away a bit. They're patient and will consume their catch whole, jaws unhinged as all snakes do. Black mambas, on the other hand, are more typical generalist predators. They aren't picky about eating other snakes. Instead, they go for small mammals like rodents, birds, and sometimes lizards or bats. Black mambas often use an ambush or quick strike strategy. They might lie in wait or stealthily approach a mouse or bird, then suddenly strike with incredible speed. They typically bite and then let the prey run off a short distance to die from the fast-acting venom before the mamba eats it. Black mambas are terrestrial and somewhat arboreal hunters. They can climb to raid bird nests or catch bats in caves, but much of their hunting is on ground level in the brush. Venom, potency, and power. Both snakes are highly venomous, but their venom works differently. The black mamba's venom is an extremely fast-acting neurotoxic cocktail. Drop for drop, it's among the most potent of any snake. Toxicity is measured using LD50, and black mamba venom can be as low as 0.3 milligrams per kilogram in mouse studies, which is exceptionally strong. In simple terms, just a couple of drops can be fatal to a human. A single bite can inject around 100 to 400 milligrams of venom, primarily neurotoxins that shut down the nervous system, along with cardiotoxins that affects the heart. Symptoms can begin within minutes: tingling, breathing difficulty, and rapid paralysis. Without antivenom, severe bites can be fatal in as little as 20 to 30 minutes. Before antivenom existed, a black mamba bite was almost always deadly, cementing its terrifying reputation. The king cobra's venom follows a different strategy. It is also neurotoxic and causes paralysis by blocking nerve signals, but it's less potent drop for drop, around 4 to 5 times weaker than black mamba venom by LD50 standards. What it lacks in strength, it makes up for in volume. Thanks to its massive size and long fangs, the king cobra can inject an enormous amount of venom in one bite, possibly up to 7 milliliters, or 4 to 500 milligrams or more. That is why it's often said a king cobra can kill an elephant. In humans, its venom tends to act more slowly than a black mamba's, sometimes giving more time to seek treatment. Still, it's extremely dangerous, with paralysis and respiratory failure possible over hours rather than minutes, depending on the bite. Danger to humans. Which is more dangerous? Both the black mamba and king cobra are capable of killing a human, and neither is a snake you'd ever want to provoke. However, there are some differences in how dangerous they are perceived and actual encounters with humans. In Africa, the black mamba is often considered the deadliest snake on the continent because of its combination of aggression, speed, and potent venom. Historically, black mambas have been blamed for numerous human fatalities, especially before antivenoms became available. Even today, in rural parts of Africa, a bite can be a medical emergency with little time to get help. Its tendency to strike repeatedly means a single encounter can result in multiple bites, making it all the more lethal. The king cobra is also very dangerous, but in a somewhat different way. In its Asian habitat, it's actually responsible for relatively fewer human bites per year compared to some smaller species. King cobras are not typically found lurking in houses or farms as often. They prefer forested areas. When they do encounter humans, king cobras often try to escape. Bites to humans, while less frequent, are often severe when they happen due to the large venom dose. A king cobra can potentially kill a person in 30 minutes to a few hours, depending on the bite and person's health, if antivenom is not administered. One particularly scary aspect is the distance at which a king cobra can strike. Since they raise up high, A big king cobra can literally look a person in the eye. In summary, both snakes are deadly, but the black mamba might be considered more immediately dangerous to an unwary human because if you step too close, it could strike multiple times and deliver a fatal dose in seconds. The king cobra is more forgiving in time, but it's a larger animal that can be harder to physically handle if one ends up in a confrontation. Both the black mamba and the king cobra are extraordinary, highly evolved snakes that deserve respect. They each play important roles in their ecosystems, controlling rodent populations or keeping other snake species in check, and both have been part of human folklore and fear for centuries. They are as different as two deadly snakes can be. Next time you see a snake, you'll know a bit more about what makes these two top serpents unique. What is the difference between black mambas and coastal taipans? What do you get when you put Africa's most feared snake in the same room as Australia's most aggressive one? Hopefully, you are not in that room. But if you had to bet your life on one of them winning, which one would it be? The one that can outrun a jogging human? The one that can kill you 3 times over with a single bite? Or maybe both? Because here is the thing, these two snakes are both terrifyingly good at what they do, and yet they are completely different animals. Today, we are talking about the black mamba and the coastal taipan. Two snakes, two continents, two completely different stories. And yet both carry a reputation that makes even experienced herpetologists take a deep breath before getting close. If you've ever wondered which one is bigger, which one is more venomous, or which one you would have a better shot at surviving if things went wrong, then you are in the right place. Let us start from the very beginning and go through everything. How they look, where they live, how they behave, and of course, what their bites do to your body. By the end of this, you will know exactly who is who. Meet the contestants. The black mamba is the undisputed king of African snakes. It holds the title of Africa's longest venomous snake and is the second longest venomous snake on the entire planet, beaten only by the king cobra. The name sounds like it should belong to a villain in a comic book, and honestly it kind of does. But here's the twist, it is not actually black. The name comes from the inside of its mouth, which is an inky, dark blue-black color. On the other side of the world in Australia, we have the coastal taipan, scientific name Oxyuranus scutellatus. Australia is already famous for having more venomous snakes than almost any other country, and the coastal taipan is near the top of that very uncomfortable list. It is the country's second longest venomous snake. It has the longest fangs of any Australian elapid, and before the late 1950s, the bite from one was essentially a death sentence. No antivenom, no hope, just time. So we have two legendary snakes. Let us now break them down properly. What do they actually look like? The black mamba is a long, slender, and almost elegant snake. Adults typically grow between 6.5 to 8.2 feet, though some individuals have been recorded at 14 feet. It has a coffin-shaped head, which is a detail that feels very on brand for a snake this deadly. The body is lean and cylindrical, the tail is long and thin, and the whole animal has a kind of graceful, athletic build. The scales are olive, brownish, or sometimes khaki, and the belly is a cream or yellowish color. Again, not black. The only black part is what you see if it opens its mouth at you, and at that point, you should be backing away very slowly. The coastal taipan looks quite different. It has a longer, more rectangular head with a distinctly angular brow. Some people describe it as looking a bit stern, like it means business. The body color ranges from light olive to reddish brown on the top, with a pale, creamy yellow underside that is sometimes flecked with pink or orange. One interesting thing about the taipan is that it changes color slightly with the seasons. Darker in winter, lighter in summer. It also has keeled scales, which means each scale has a small ridge running down the middle, giving the skin a slightly textured look. Adults typically reach around 6.5 feet, though some specimens have been recorded at up to 11.5 feet. If you put them side by side, the black mamba would generally be slimmer and longer, while the coastal taipan would be slightly heavier and more muscular in proportion. A big mamba can weigh around 3.3 pounds, while a mature taipan can reach up to 11 pounds. Where do they live? The black mamba is a sub-Saharan African snake. It is found across a wide range that includes countries like Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, and many more in between. It prefers dry, open habitats, rocky savannas, scrubland, light woodland, and semi-arid terrain. You will not find it deep in the rainforest. It likes warmth, open space, and good visibility. Despite being called a mamba, the black mamba is actually far more of a ground-dwelling snake than the other mamba species. It often rests in termite mounds, rock crevices, hollow trees, and old animal burrows. It will climb trees when needed. It is quite agile, but it spends most of its time on the ground. The coastal taipan, as its name suggests, is mostly found along the coastal and northern regions of Australia. Its range stretches from northeastern New South Wales up through all of Queensland, across the Northern Territory, and into parts of northern Western Australia. There is also a subspecies found in New Guinea called the Papuan taipan. Unlike the mamba's dry and open preferences, the taipan is comfortable in a much wider range of environments. Tropical forests, monsoon forests, wet and dry woodlands, open grasslands, and scrubland. One interesting habitat it has adapted to very well is sugarcane fields. So, in terms of habitat, the mamba owns Africa's open, dry landscapes, and the taipan rules Australia's humid and coastal environments. Two very different worlds. Are they really as aggressive as people say? Here is where things get interesting, because both snakes have fierce reputations, but the truth is a little more nuanced than the myths. The black mamba is genuinely one of the most nervous snakes in Africa. When a snake this fast and this venomous gets nervous, that is a problem. Its first instinct when it encounters a human is always to get away. It is not actively hunting people. It would much rather disappear into the bushes and never see you again. However, if it feels cornered, threatened, or surprised, the reaction is dramatic. It rears up its body, sometimes raising the front third off the ground, spreads a narrow hood around its neck, opens that infamous black mouth wide, and hisses. This is not decoration. This is a serious warning. And if you do not back off, it strikes. And it does not just strike once. It bites multiple times in quick succession, injecting venom with each bite. It holds its head up to 20 inches off the ground while moving, and up to a full meter when striking, which means it can reach higher than most people expect. The speed of the black mamba is legendary. It moves at around 7.5 to 12.5 miles per hour. Fast enough to seriously unsettle you, but mainly used to escape, not attack. The coastal taipan is a different character. It is described by Australian herpetologists as extremely nervous. Any sudden movement nearby can trigger a defensive response, and unlike the mamba, it does not spend much time warning you. The Australian Museum puts it very bluntly. The taipan will strike, often without any warning, and it does so with remarkable speed and accuracy. Its muscular, lightweight body allows it to hurl itself forward or sideways, and it can reach high off the ground during a strike. A person can be bitten several times before they even realize the snake is there. There is a reason experienced snake handlers in Australia treat the coastal taipan with the highest level of respect. It is widely considered the most dangerous snake to actually handle. Both snakes are diurnal. They are active during the day, which means they are out when you are out. Good morning. The venom. This is the part that really matters. All right, let us talk about what makes both these snakes truly terrifying: their venom. The black mamba's venom is primarily a neurotoxin, which means it goes after your nervous system. It also contains cardiotoxins which attack the heart. A single bite can deliver between 100 and 120 milligrams of venom on average, though the maximum recorded dose is 400 milligrams. It only takes about 10 to 15 milligrams to kill an adult human, so yes, the math is very bad. The first symptoms can begin within 10 minutes. A tingling sensation, metallic taste, drooping eyelids, difficulty swallowing, and excessive sweating. Within a few hours, without treatment, the victim experiences respiratory failure, cardiovascular collapse, and death. Without antivenom, a bite from a black mamba can kill in 7 to 15 hours, and in some recorded cases, even faster. Before an effective antivenom was available, a black mamba bite was considered essentially unsurvivable. The coastal taipan's venom is a different kind of nightmare. It is predominantly neurotoxic and also coagulopathic, meaning it attacks the nervous system and disrupts the blood's ability to clot properly. This double threat is what makes it so medically dangerous. The venom causes the blood to clot inside the body, blocking blood vessels and using up all available clotting factors, which then leads to uncontrolled bleeding. The taipan has the longest fangs of any Australian elapid, up to 12 to 13 millimeters, which means the venom is injected deep into tissue, not just under the skin. Studies have shown that a taipan can inject the same large amount of venom in a second or third bite as it did in the first. It does not run dry. In terms of pure venom toxicity, the coastal taipan is ranked as the third most venomous land snake in the world, after its inland cousin and the eastern brown snake. Before the development of an antivenom in 1955, a coastal taipan bite was a death sentence. Period. The story of how the antivenom was developed is remarkable. It started in 1950 when an amateur herpetologist named Kevin Boudin captured a live taipan, the first person known to do so, and was bitten in the process. He died the following day, but the snake he captured was milked for its venom, and that venom was used to begin the work of developing an antivenom, which became available in 1955. So, how do the venoms compare? Both are extremely dangerous and both can kill quickly without treatment. The black mamba's venom is famous for speed of action and sheer potency per bite. The coastal taipan's venom does more complex damage to the body's systems. In laboratory toxicity tests on mice, the coastal taipan's venom ranks higher overall. But in terms of real-world danger to humans, the black mamba is often considered the more feared snake because it is larger, faster, delivers more venom, and bites multiple times. It is the snake most responsible for snakebite deaths in Africa. What do they eat? Both snakes are carnivores and both are active daytime hunters. The black mamba preys mainly on small mammals, rodents, bush babies, hyraxes, bats, as well as birds, particularly nestlings and fledglings. It has excellent eyesight and uses movement to detect prey. When it spots something, it rears up, strikes, and then usually backs away, letting the neurotoxin do its work before going back to find and eat the dead or dying animal. If the prey is a bird, though, it holds on rather than releasing it because a bird could fly off before the venom takes effect. The mamba swallows its prey whole, and enzymes in its saliva begin breaking down the meal before it even reaches the stomach. The coastal taipan hunts similarly. Small to medium-sized mammals are its main food, particularly rats, mice, bandicoots, and calls. It also eats birds and occasionally lizards. When hunting, it actively scans for prey with its large eyes while moving with its head raised. It freezes when it spots something, then strikes explosively, injects venom, and releases the prey, letting the animal stagger off and die before tracking it down. This is a smart strategy because it avoids getting injured in a struggle with a dying animal that might still fight back. So, what's the difference? So let us pull this all together cleanly. The black mamba is the longer, faster, and more slender of the two. It lives in Africa's open, dry savannas and scrublands. It is gray to olive in color with that famous black mouth. It is a nervous snake that prefers to flee but can be highly aggressive when cornered. Its venom is a fast-acting neurotoxin and cardiotoxin that can kill within hours. It strikes multiple times and delivers a large venom dose. The coastal taipan is the heavier, stockier, and arguably more aggressive of the two. It lives along Australia's coastal and northern regions, thriving in forests, woodlands, and even sugarcane fields. It is olive to reddish brown, with a pale belly and those distinctive large eyes. It is extremely nervous, often strikes without warning, has the longest fangs of any Australian elapid, and delivers a venom that simultaneously destroys the nervous system and wrecks the body's ability to clot blood. It ranks third in the world for venom toxicity among land snakes. Both are elite predators. Both are dangerous. Both deserve respect and distance. If you are still trying to decide which is the more dangerous snake, the answer is, it depends on what you mean by dangerous. In terms of venom toxicity by weight, the coastal taipan edges ahead. In terms of real-world deaths, reputation, and sheer all-around terror, the black mamba holds the title as Africa's most feared snake and one of the most feared animals on Earth. The World Health Organization classifies it as a snake of major medical importance. and African communities have built entire mythologies around it for centuries. The coastal taipan, meanwhile, is the kind of snake that Australian herpetologists describe with a specific tone of voice. A kind of quiet, respectful seriousness that tells you they are not joking. Before antivenom existed, nobody in recorded history survived a taipan bite without treatment. One person, George Rosendale, survived a bite in 1949 without antivenom, and his blood was reportedly so black by the time he recovered that nurses showed him the extracted samples. That is one data point. That is the exception. So if you are ever in sub-Saharan Africa and you see a long gray snake with a coffin-shaped head standing its ground and opening its mouth to show you the black inside, back away slowly and do not run. If you are working in a Queensland sugarcane field and a slim reddish-brown snake with huge bright eyes is staring at you very intently from 3 meters away, also back away slowly. Different continents, same basic advice. Both of these snakes are extraordinary animals. Millions of years of evolution have made them among the most efficient predators that have ever existed. They are not monsters, they are not villains. They are just doing what they were built to do. And what they were built to do is, admittedly, fairly terrifying. What is the difference between king cobras and other cobras? The legendary king cobra is rightfully feared and respected by anyone and anything with even a shred of sense. This regal serpent rules the snake world with iron fangs and a deadly reputation. But what is it that sets the king apart from other cobras? Are king cobras even that much different? Or is their iconic status a result of too much hype? Well, that's what we're here to talk about. So sit back, relax, and let's see how the king distinguishes itself from its subjects. King cobra. The king cobra, or Ophiophagus hana to taxonomists, is a large venomous snake from the Elapidae family. In fact, the king is the largest venomous snake on the planet today. On average, it can be anywhere from 10.4 and 13.1 feet long, though especially large ones can reach 19 feet in length. Weight ranges between 11 and 22 pounds. Males are significantly larger than females of comparable age, sometimes even twice as big. Instead of being a sole species, the king cobra is known as a species complex, which means there is a possibility that there are several species, but there are not enough real differences to firmly establish that, despite ongoing debates. King cobras are native to southern Asian regions like India, South China, and a bunch of southeastern Asian countries like Thailand, Vietnam, Singapore, and Malaysia. It prefers tropical forests and jungles, marshland, and swamps. Of course, given its popularity and exotic nature, it is a highly sought-after species among zoos and even private collectors around the globe. The International Union for the Conservation of Nature, IUCN, lists the snake as vulnerable, which is just a tier below least concern. Despite their healthy populations and wide distribution, wild king cobras are pretty elusive and tend to steer clear from human settlements. Part of their elusive nature is their camouflage skin, which ranges from olive green to black or gray. They also usually have stripes and bands of white or yellow. The king cobra is a cultural icon in its native regions, and it is even a prominent part of religions like Hinduism. It is also a common choice for snake charmers and other snake-related entertainers. Like all snakes, the king is a predator, and it actively pursues a wide range of prey, including frogs, lizards, rats, mice, and small birds. However, its favorite dish is other snakes like subadult pythons, kraits, rat snakes, pit vipers, whip snakes, and other cobras like the Indian cobra. Cannibalism is also an option, meaning small king cobras have to keep their eyes peeled for bigger ones. With its keen sense of smell, the king cobra can track and close in on its prey with surprising speed. Once cornered, victims have virtually no chance of escaping or fighting their way out of trouble. The king cobra itself is highly resistant to other snakes' venom, but other snakes are not immune to the king's bite. Also, because of its large size, the king cobra can constrict prey, cutting blood circulation and suffocating it. This powerful venom, size, and resilience grant the king cobra apex predator status. No one messes with them, and even large beasts like tigers and elephants know that they are best avoided. Mongooses are among the few critters that fancy their chances against the king, and the little mammals rely on speed, agility, thick skin, and an impressive venom resistance to tackle the deadly serpents. Its two needle-sharp fangs deploy a deadly venom concoction consisting of alpha neurotoxins, cytotoxins, and beta cardiotoxins. This chemical dose devastates the brain, nervous system, respiratory system, the heart, and of course the bite site. The snake can control the volumes of venom it injects at will, and the venom itself can contain varying mixes of the three primary toxins depending on age, sex, and time of the year. Envenomation is unimaginably excruciating and can lead to swelling at the bite site, tissue and blood vessel damage, interference with blood coagulation, paralysis, drowsiness, loss of motor control, heart failure, and of course death. Amputation may be necessary if medical attention is not received quickly, and death is almost a certainty without antivenom. Death can come as quickly as 30 minutes, depending on the victim's age, body size, bite site, and volume administered. Antivenom is critical, but most people can only be bitten so many times before the antivenom itself becomes deadly. Folks in remote areas without reliable transport and medical facilities are pretty much doomed when bitten. The king cobra does not spit venom though, so your eyes are generally safe, unless you're bitten in the face, of course. Luckily, king cobras are not overly aggressive, as their size is often deterrent enough. When threatened, especially by humans, their first priority is to dash to safety and avoid conflict. Of course, when there is no obvious escape route, the king stands its ground, rears the front third of its body, and displays its iconic hood to make itself appear even larger. Again, this display is usually warning enough for most sensible opponents. It will also produce low-pitched hisses that sound almost like growls to warn of its lethality. If the threat display somehow fails, though, the cobra will strike, and strike repeatedly. When in self-defense, king cobras will attempt to deliver the largest volumes of venom they can to ensure death. In this mode, even a single bite can drop an elephant dead, never mind a human. King cobras are also very protective of their nests and eggs, and will bite until they can't bite anymore in their defense. Surprise movements are also not advised in encounters, as their natural response to being spooked is offense. If you ever run into one, back away very slowly until you're sure you're out of its considerable striking range before running for your life. Other cobras. The word cobra actually refers to a fairly wide range of venomous snakes. Most of these serpents fall under the Elapidae family alongside the king, but are not in the Ophiophagus genus. We also have the false water cobra, Hydrodynastis gigas, which is part of the Colubridae family instead of Elapidae. Most cobras are characterized by the iconic rearing and hood display, though a small handful do not do this. Most true cobra species are classified in the Naja genus. Though debates and revisions are still ongoing, we have about 20 to 22 species of Naja cobra in the world today. Notable species include the Indian cobra, Naja naja, Egyptian cobra, Naja hage, Caspian cobra, Naja oxiana, and Philippine cobra, Naja philippinensis. The general etymological consensus is that the word Naja is derived from the Sanskrit term naga, which literally translates to snake. Other theories suggest that it comes from the Sanskrit word nagna, which means naked or hairless. True cobras are mainly distributed in regions of Africa and southern to Southeast Asia, occupying a wide range of habitat types. Forests, deserts, grasslands, and even high-altitude areas are the main examples. Because of the wide distribution, Naja cobras are highly significant in medicine and the development of precious antivenom. They are perhaps the most dangerous snake genus on Earth based on the sheer number of encounters and fatalities. Again, many fatalities occur in poor or remote areas with limited life-saving facilities and transportation. In addition to their wide distribution, true cobras have a marked reputation for aggression and seemingly unprovoked attacks. They often bite first and ask questions never, and cornering them is a recipe for disaster. Neurotoxic venom is the typical concoction in most species, and this is often more concentrated than in the king cobra. This venom attacks and impairs the nervous system, resulting in paralysis. A few other species have cytotoxic venom, which causes necrosis, skin discoloration, and horrific swelling. Cardiotoxic venom, which attacks the heart, is another less common type of concoction. Regardless of the specific chemistry, true cobras deliver significantly lower dosages of venom than kings. In addition to biting, many species are capable of shooting venom from their fangs. This projectile venom is often deployed as a defensive measure, and the snakes have deadly aim. They can hit a human's eyes from more than 12 feet away, which can impair vision or even cause permanent blindness if untreated. They will also aim for the mouth and nose, which causes intense burning and irritation. Specialist spitters include the Mozambican spitting cobra, Naja mozambica, red spitting cobra, Naja pallida, and the Indo-Chinese spitting cobra, Naja siamensis. Despite their aggressive ways, true cobras do not reach the spectacular size of the mighty king, which is why they might find themselves on the larger snakes menu. They are slender-bodied serpents for the most part, and the majority of species grow to a maximum length of around 6 feet. The African forest cobra is arguably the longest of the bunch, with specimens able to reach 10 feet. Coloration and patterns vary greatly, and juveniles may feature different colors and patterns to their parents. Naturally, all true cobras can rear the front portions of their bodies and display their trademark hoods when threatened. Species adapted for spitting will do so if the perceived threat comes close enough. If the threat comes closer still, they will bite as much as they need to and attempt to flee. When it comes to hunting, cobras go after rodents, birds, amphibians, and lizards. Smaller snakes may be on the menu too, but as a whole, Naja cobras are not as specialized at hunting serpents as the king. Also, unlike the king, true cobras never constrict prey. They're also less likely to be apex predators, though some are in very niche areas where common snake predators are rare or absent. Apart from humans, cobras are hunted by mongooses, cats, badgers, larger snakes, and birds of prey like eagles, hawks, and secretary birds. Like the king cobra, though, Naja serpents are important cultural animals in their home ranges. They are a prominent feature of ancient Egyptian mythology, being depicted in hieroglyphs and even the crowns of pharaohs. Their aggression has also seen them referenced in a number of action-related contexts. Military divisions, kung fu media, and sporting teams are just a handful of places where one might find a cobra reference or two.